time for the main event. It's the Shoe Shine.
¿Qué onda, vatos locos? Damas y caballeros, it's your boy Dave in the 702 coming back at you for the boxing podcast known as the Shoe Shine. Oh, I got slipped up already, guys. As you can see, guys, I'm riding solo tonight. Solo dolo on a Thursday night, and I want a big apology to everybody that was looking forward to me live streaming the live media day workout. I made an error, guys. Apparently, they were not going to have them publicly open to everybody who wanted to just check them out at the Mandalay Bay. And I have some thoughts on that. They were held at a private gym off the strip, near the strip, actually, but strictly only for credentialed media that PBC had approved about a month back. And knowing how tough that PBC is with media credentials and just people just walking in without having gone through all the paperwork, I didn't even bother, guys. I'm pretty sure that some of you might have seen some of the Media Day workout stuff, most likely on other websites or YouTube channels like Fight Hub and whatnot, or on PBC themselves. It looked like barely anybody was there. And it looked like there wasn't too much buzz today around the PBC press conference. Most of the fighters got on the microphone for like a whopping 20 to 30 seconds. I was really surprised. The good thing is that if you're looking forward to the Sebastian Fundora, the Towering Inferno return to Las Vegas, is that if you have an Amazon Prime membership, well, you're going to be able to watch it for free. Of course, you do have to pay for the Amazon Prime membership, but I think most people have probably adopted Amazon Prime as one of their, most convenient ways to get goods delivered to your house. I use it all the time. I have Amazon Prime, but again, it's not free. It isn't really free. You pay for that privilege to have stuff delivered to your house. Now, that is a good thing because for about a year now that we've been knowing that PBC's been working with Amazon Prime, we've been wondering, when are they going to show us some free stuff like back in the day on Showtime, PBC Showtime? When can we get some free fights? And people having pay-per-view fatigue, and that's something here that I put in the thumbnail today, pay-per-view fatigue. It's nice that we're getting some free fights, or like I said, included in your membership cost with Amazon Prime. It's nice that we're going to get something. We get to see some of PBC's biggest stars, unified champion Sebastian the Towering Inferno Fundora, return to the ring after a year. He hasn't been in the ring since March, since he upset Tim Tszyu for his titles. So we finally get to see him back in the ring. A whole year wasted, in my opinion. They pursued a fight with Errol Spence, who was a star of yesteryear, in my humble opinion. Shout out to Errol Spence and everybody that likes him, but he is a former star. And I think they really thought that he was capable of getting back in the ring. And, Sebastian's management probably thought that such a high-profile name like Errol Spence would be a great name, a great scalp on the resume of Sebastian Fundora, and they pursued that. And it seems like they wasted an entire year. We're going to see if there's any rust or due to the inactivity. But he is fighting a guy named Cordell Booker. We're going to talk about that fight. Cordell Booker, someone that started very late to the sport of boxing, came in to the sport at around 18 years old. And anybody that knows boxing knows that, man, he made it really far, guys. Shout out Fonzie. Shout out that SS Spider. Big Spooky in the house. Appreciate you guys. I'm going to talk about this. But I can't put up comments at the moment. Let me see if I can put up comments down here. Shout out to Fonzie. It is March Madness in Las Vegas. I wanted to point that out. I was going to go to my local casino, South Point, today. They kicked off the festivities today for March Madness. They're going to have an event today, tomorrow, and Saturday that begin. I think it starts like really, really early at 2,000 seat venue where you can watch all the games. They've got game day specials. They've got beer specials. They got food specials. And they have my boy Gabe Lopez, who is the host of the Dirty at 12:30 comedy show at South Point. He is hosting the event. I'm going to try to go down there tomorrow during the day and get some footage for you guys and see, how healthy is March Madness in Las Vegas. It used to be that March Madness in Las Vegas, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny to come in and be here for all the festivities. And the fact of the matter is I checked room rates, and South Point, who hosts a really big party amongst other casinos like Westgate, that they're very expensive this week. Now, it seems that there's some people, arriving yesterday and today, but the room rates are insane, guys. And this article came out today in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Nickel and dimed are Las Vegas casinos pushing visitors to the tipping point. And as a local, guys, as someone who now lives here full time, and my wife and I used to, save our pennies, like most of you guys. We used to save our pennies to come to Las Vegas 3, sometimes, if we were lucky enough, 4 times a year. And we even had the Southwest Airlines credit card to get rewards. And a lot of you guys have rewards with casinos. You guys who do come to Las Vegas know that's part of like getting comps and whatnot. And we used to do that for years. Now as a local, I can't imagine what it feels like to be booking a vacation in today's economy. Shout out Wally Coyote. He says, sorry to say tourism's going to tank, but you're absolutely effing fucking right. If you look at the casino stocks, if you look at all the major stocks, Caesars Group, MGM, they're doing really poorly. And a lot of this nickel diming shit is attributed to, and I'll even say it, shout out to Stephen Campbell of Not Leaving Las Vegas. He made a really good video on this. But Caesars, specifically MGM, who owns so many casinos on the Strip, they're actually tenants now, guys. They decided, you know what? Here's a fucking great way to make a quick buck. Let's sell the buildings. Yeah, let's sell our real estate and just fucking run the casino. In fact, let's sell the Cosmopolitan to somebody who wants to buy these buildings, and then just let us rent the goddamn building back. And because of that, all the casinos have been nickel and diming the consumer, the tourists, the people that are the backbone of this economy in Las Vegas, the people that want to come here. Everything is a fucking ripoff in Las Vegas now. I mean, I'm going to have a shot of tequila, guys, because I'm by myself. Everything is a fucking ripoff. I'm sorry about my language, but it really is. And it hurts me as a local Vegas resident to see that, the people that are going to suffer as a result to all this nickel and diming that the casinos are doing are locals. So much of the Las Vegas community depend on tourism. Just like I grew up in San Francisco, guys. San Francisco, once upon a time, I know you guys can watch YouTube and you can see how decrepit the city of San Francisco is. My mom still lives there. They really ran that fucking city into the ground. And the last thing I want is for local politicians, businesses to run this city, the city I just adopted as my own hometown, to run this city into the ground. And they're doing a great job of it. You allow crime, you allow homelessness to, run rampant on the Strip and scare off locals. Man, you're going to destroy this city just like San Francisco got destroyed. I'm not even joking about that, guys. Fonzie says, the thing that sucks is casinos are scared of all the good tourists and now catering to all the wrong and ghetto tourists. Well, that happened during the pandemic and during the stimulus spending that, Vegas was desperate. Vegas was like, let's start with the value consumer again. Let's get the value tourists looking for value. And things got a little rough and, dicey because there was a lot of stimulus money floating around. That exact stimulus money that, the president in his office now had put in there so people to save the economy at the time and needed stimulus. It's what boosted Las Vegas. And it also started this spiral downfall with casinos nickel and diming the consumer, man. These resort fees, I mean, we could start with resort fees now up to $55 at some casinos. Nobody is transparent with the fees that you're going to pay when you book a room. There's no more buffets. Like how many buffets are left that are even decent? I mean, 10 years ago, you can come to Las Vegas and buy a day 24-hour pass called the Buffet of Buffets, and you could eat in Las Vegas for $79.99 for a whole fucking 24 hours. I remember I did it just before I even had a YouTube channel. I was like, how many buffets could I eat in one 24-hour span? I had like 5 of them. I think I gained 10 pounds on that vacation. I literally had like 5 fucking buffets in 24 hours. And guess what? The Bacchanal at Caesars was included for an extra $20. So I spent $99 on food some 10 years ago. You can't even eat at Bacchanal for $99 fucking dollars for one meal. Glad you guys are all here. Appreciate. Maybe try to share it on your socials. Make sure you hit that like. I appreciate everybody that's in here. Let's get 20, let's get 30 people up in here. Luxor just shut down their buffet. Excalibur, speaking of MGM, just laid off or permanently fired a ton of their bellhops, valet staff. So the minute you get into the experience at the Excalibur, which is not a great experience, right? I'm going to take that off the screen right there. We may have Drew come by. We may not. If somebody wants to really get into the show, I can have you on as a panelist here, and I can even hide your face by putting up that graphic that I just had. Let me know if you guys want to come in here. But the reason why I'm really upset this week is because, well, you guys have heard it. We had the Federal Reserve talk about Jerome Powell came out with his speech. They held the interest rates steady, but they revealed what Trump doesn't want to hear, and that's that inflation is going nowhere. In fact, inflation is most likely going to go up, and I know Republican people don't want to hear it, but inflation is going to rise if April 2nd they truly enact these tariffs. These tariffs are going to be crippling. I know we've got some good Canadians in this audience. I've already heard from a lot of Canadian friends that come to Las Vegas that they're going to be holding off on that. Not only is there probably an issue with the whole currency exchange, but there's some hard feelings right now because of these tariff wars. So that's also going to hurt the Vegas economy. The lack of Canadian tourists that love Las Vegas and come here all the time. Fonzie says the Flamingo buffet was not that great, but one of my buddies, he passed away already, but he would take me to that buffet, and at times it was like whatever, but now I miss it. Yeah, that was actually included in my buffet. I remember that. I remember that was my last meal. I'm like, well, I didn't try the Flamingo one. And that was completely shit. That was the fucking worst food included in the buffet of buffets. But back in the day, I think Aladdin was owned by Caesars, which is now Planet Hollywood, and that was pretty good. That was, included in the package. Paris was included in the package. Bacchanal was in. I mean, shit, you don't get value like that in Las Vegas anymore. There is no value. Let's check this out really quickly right here. No, not that one. Here's a funny one. I always appreciate this in Las Vegas, guys, but off the freeway, Little Darlings always post really funny shit. And they just posted this week on their billboard off of Highway 15, due to the economy, 69 will now be 96. The cost of eating out has gone up. I love that they can put shit like that on there. What does that mean for boxing? What does that mean for UFC events, guys? Well, the UFC recently had this UFC Noche, right? That was supposed to be, they went toe-to-toe with the sport of boxing on Mexican, was it Independence Day? And they did their very first event at the Sphere, and they had to slash prices dramatically. They had the event at the Sphere starting at $3,000. And by the time fight week came around, they were slashing prices in half to as low as $1,500, which, again, $1,500 for one person to attend a fight at the Sphere is fucking ridiculous, especially considering the fact that a report came out this week that Dana White and the UFC pay-per-view numbers are struggling. This past week, it had been reported that Dana White is blaming ESPN Plus, that also is the current home of Top Rank Boxing, blaming the application and the technology for countless of people supposedly saying they weren't able to pay the $80 to watch the last UFC pay-per-view. Now, I myself pay for that stupid ESPN Plus app and to watch Top Rank Boxing, and I'll tell you that the app fucking sucks. In fact, it takes me so many pages to go through on my phone or my computer to get to the actual fight. It's a complete pain in the ass. Not that DAZN, the other major sporting app for boxing, is any better. But Dana White's pretty pissed off at ESPN, and because of that, the UFC is considering, they're in conjunction with TKO, what Dana White's boxing promotion company is going to be in conjunction with TKO, and they're all, and the WWE is owned. They are working on signing a deal. Wile E. Coyote, shout out to you, man. Yeah. it looks like they're on their way to Netflix, which is where the WWE is holding most of their events, most of their fights. I'm sorry, not fights. My wife and I were talking about their stage theater. WWE is over at Netflix. But it's only going to be natural that boxing is going to find its way over to Netflix with Dana White in charge. The big question is, Netflix is doing really well right now. Netflix can afford the Jake Paul fights. Netflix did insane numbers with the Mike Tyson and what's his name, Jake Paul fight. They did incredible numbers, and it honestly looks like nobody should be surprised if Dana White is going to be at the top of the promotional vehicle for this September's mega showdown between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford. It's almost certainly going to fall on Netflix the way things are looking. And the deal that UFC has with ESPN is most likely going to fall apart. Wiley, I agree, it's way easier to stream, but Netflix did suffer some serious buffering, and everybody was complaining on Twitter, X, about the Jake Paul fight with Mike Tyson about streaming issues. I myself encountered the buffering and had to exit the app. And it could have been just because, hey, everyone watches Netflix, but they've never had 20 million people watching a fucking event at one time. And they did for that Jake Paul. And it's understandable that on that first event being so massive, they did encounter some streaming issues. But I think this will be really resolved by the time they get around in September to potentially hosting this fight. And to be honest, that was a circus fight. And that, Mike Tyson carries a lot of nostalgic appeal to a lot of people out there. And I really doubt that 20 million people are going to watch Canelo Alvarez fight Terrence Crawford. Now, that's going to be, to me, the most interesting, probably highest grossing event of the year in the sport of boxing. And most boxing fans are going to go nuts for this because we're going to have two generational greats, two, not pay-per-view stars, but two pound-for-pound fighters, two of arguably the best in this entire crop of fighters this generation, finally go toe-to-toe in a very interesting matchup. I think Netflix will, I'm almost certain they're going to carry this fight, but I don't speculate it doing 20 million people. That brings us to the question, will TKO, Turkey Ali Sheik, Dana White, if Dana White's at the top of the promotional vehicle, will they be asking Netflix to allow to charge the customer what we're all accustomed to paying for, aside from the Turkey Ali Sheik fights that he's been putting on in Saudi Arabia? American consumers are paying $79.99 to watch these type of pay-per-views, including UFC fans. UFC fans apparently are getting sick and tired of fucking paying $79.99. And you've even got former champions in the UFC coming out and saying, listen, man, the piracy is affecting us. Now, UFC's model of paying fighters is very interesting to me because there was a very important leak this week about what TKO is going to be paying their fighters, their new fighters, their fighters on their future promotional vehicle called TKO Boxing or whatever it's going to be called. I'll go over that leak really quickly. Fonzie has some numbers here. He says, if I remember, it was $750,000 for defending the belt, and that is the most they're trying to pay. The UFC pay model is fairly low, but they allow fighters who are champions to, let me get rid of this picture here. They allow champions to get revenue sharing from the pay-per-views. And who's the guy with the cornrows, guys? I forget his name because I'm not really watching UFC anymore. But the white guy with the cornrows, he lost his belt at the Sphere. Well, he's saying, now, first of all, the pay-per-view numbers were way down even when he was a champion. And that greatly affects their revenue potential because as a champion in the UFC, that's the only time somebody like Pereira holding a belt is going to get an opportunity to share in the revenue of pay-per-view sales. And as these pay-per-view sales, we're starting to find out more and more that UFC pay-per-views aren't doing quite what they want us to believe they're doing. These fighters are also, they're not netting anything. They're not getting any positive results out of being a champion because the pay-per-view numbers are collapsing. Even for the UFC, even for MMA, these numbers are collapsing. So it's curious what we're going to see from TKO. regarding their boxing enterprise, whatever that's going on with boxing. All right, this was leaked from boxingscene.com. These are some of the things that have been put out. It looks like $20,000 for a 10-round bout by an unranked fighter, $50,000 when ranked by the company. A number 5 to number 10 ranking will be a $50,000 base pay to the fighter for this new boxing promotional company led by Dana White. $125,000 if you're ranked by the new company at number 3 or 4. $375,000 when challenging for the company's championship. Remember, guys, they want to do away with all the belts, the WBO, the WBA, the IBF. They don't want to deal with those sanctioning bodies. They want to have their own belt, whatever belt that's going to be. I think only really, truly, it could be the Ring Magazine belt, which is basically a belt in symbolism only. But $375,000 as a contender challenging for the world title, that's going to be your pay. $750,000. This is something Fonzie just put up, which seems to match the pay in the UFC. $750,000 when defending the company's championship. $750K for a defending champion. Potentially some pay-per-view revenue, but I don't really know what TKO, what they're going to do in terms of pay-per-views, considering the fact that, well, where are they going to do the pay-per-views? They're not going to be on Netflix, because from what I'm reading, Netflix does not want to deal with pay-per-views. In fact, perfect proof of that is what's going to be happening next month in Las Vegas. A massive 2-day event right here in Las Vegas. WWE is coming to the Allegiant Stadium. Excuse me, guys. Excuse me. I just found out that I've got acid reflux, and even water is making me burp excessively. It's disgusting. I apologize, everybody. My wife's been noticing it too. The WWE is coming to Las Vegas April 19th and 20th for a 2-day extravaganza. Obviously, they are owned by the same group that owns the UFC, TKO, and it's not going to be on Netflix. Even though everything else they do is on Netflix, you're going to have to watch that on Peacock pay-per-view. Now, if you have a VPN that can fool Netflix into thinking you're in Canada or Mexico, Japan, or some other country, you're going to be able to watch that WWE if you fancy, probably for free. You'll be able to trick it because they are showing WrestleMania on Netflix, just not in the US. Now, if you want to watch that in the US, you're not going to be able to watch that on Netflix. You're going to have to pay for it. You have to pay for that on Peacock pay-per-view. Who even knew Peacock had a pay-per-view? Oh, that app, I've been on Peacock before. I had a free trial. That shit sucked. That app fucking sucked. That really kept crashing. But that's where they're showing the WWE. Now, the Vegas economy really needs it. We're going to find out this spring what's going on with Las Vegas's economy, because discretionary spending, as I pointed out at the beginning of the show, discretionary spending is starting to collapse in the U.S. The airlines came out with a report. Airlines came out with, what they forecast. And the airlines are seeing a complete tanking of people taking discretionary vacations. And with Las Vegas being more expensive than it ever has been, with $25 being the average price of a cocktail on the fucking strip, $25 for a cocktail, let alone your entree, the price of food. I mean, people are cutting back. People are cutting back bad. And if we actually do have this recession as predicted, well, we're going to be feeling it right here in this town quickly. And some of these corporations like MGM, I hate to say it, but they've got the wrong approach. They need to wake the F up and quickly turn this ship around. Fonzie says, I heard the WBO is hurting since Turkey is rejecting it. Now they're trying to say Benavidez ducked Canelo. That's why he moved up in weight. The WBO is a joke. Now, I did read about that today. I have been hearing about what's been going on. Obviously, Benavidez went to Turkey al-Sheikh, Saudi Arabia, to watch that fight. The Beterbiev, he is the WBC mandatory. His manager, Samson Lukowicz, is in town. He's the manager of Sebastian Fundora. He was speaking today. A lot of people were asking him about what's going on with David Benavidez versus Dimitri Bivol. He's the mandatory. Turki Ali Sheikh wants Dimitri Bivol. He's kind of made it very expressly that he's made it very publicly known that I want Dimitri Bivol to give Beterbiev a third trilogy, give him the third fight and make that first. David Benavidez is the mandatory. David Benavidez was the mandatory for Canelo for so long at 168. Why would anything fucking change? But recently, Turki Ali Sheikh has been kind of at war with the WBC's Mauricio Sulaiman. So maybe Mauricio Sulaiman is going to fire back and say, hey, I'm going to do the right thing this time for David Benavidez. I'm going to do the exact right thing. Dimitri Bivol, you fight David Benavidez next. And if not, I'm going to strip you of that title. You'll no longer be undisputed. Sure, you can go ahead and fight Beterbiev next, but you won't be the undisputed champion. Now, the IBF did that to Canelo Alvarez, which is why Canelo Alvarez, as some of you were asking, why the fuck is he fighting William Scull? Well, it's because William Scull is now the IBF champion of the world at 168. If the WBC was finally going to grow a pair of balls and do the right thing, they will say, Dimitri Bivol, sign the contract, go into negotiation with David Benavidez next, or lose that title. What's up, Tony Boswell? Good to see you. Appreciate you, man. Good to see you in here. Yeah, the right thing to do for the WBC is say, that's fine. Dimitri Bivol, you do what you want. You want to fight you want to fight Beterbiev one third time, another third time, go for the trilogy. That is fine, but you're going to have to vacate that belt. And David Benavidez will be eligible to fight for the vacated belt against, Calum Smith would be a great fight, for the vacated WBC belt. And then Dimitri Bivol, once he gets done beating Beterbiev, in my opinion, for the third time in less than a year, then David Benavidez can finally fight as the world champion, the WBC champion, fight Dimitri Bivol for undisputed. I mean, either way, all these scenarios are plausible. The right thing to do is to strip Dimitri Bivol. Turki Ali Sheikh doesn't care for Mauricio Sulaiman, and the WBC's made it very vocal recently. He had Canelo he asked him to toss aside the WBC belt at the press conference against William Scull. Turkey's making it very, very obvious who he cares for and who he doesn't. Oh, no, man. Fonzie says, in my opinion, at this point, Canelo needs Benavidez, not the other way around. And I know that is killing Canelo since he is a hater. The Benavidez-Canelo fight is still something that I think Turki Ali Sheikh should, for that 4-fight deal to whatever, $400 million, I really think. It's good, Matt S. Appreciate you being in here. I really think Turki Ali Sheikh needs to have that David Benavidez versus Canelo fight at the top of his mind going into 2026. Somehow making it happen. Somehow making that fight happen for $100 million per fight, man. You get to call the shots. And the public wants to see it. Now, this weekend, we've got 3 fights. We've got a Las Vegas main event right here at the Mandalay Bay. Like I said, I apologize to everybody. I know on Monday night's show, I said I was going to be at the Mandalay Bay covering the Media Day workout. And when I finally checked the company that runs the media for PBC, I had realized, wow, they're not having an event at Mandalay Bay. They're having it at a small private gym, where an actual boxing gym where boxers go and work out. I think it's Vegas VIP or Boxing VIP. And the event wasn't open to people who hadn't already gone through the credential process 4 weeks ago. So I'm not going to go over there and waste my time. Tony says, should they strip him? No, both fights between Beterbiev and Bivol were damn good. They were good fights and close. I'll buy the trilogy. I don't have a problem with the trilogy, Tony. I just think that Bivol's going to win again. I mean, at this point, Beterbiev is approaching 41, and he didn't improve from the first fight. I thought Bivol clearly outclassed him at least 7-5, and maybe 8-4 in the second one. And there might be some interest internationally in the trilogy more so than domestically, but I do think the WBC should finally start enforcing their own rules. And if he's the mandatory and David Benavidez is not paid a handsome step-aside fee, something that was customary in the sport of boxing, if you're not going to give the rightful contender an opportunity, then they should be offered a very high step-aside fee, especially for David Benavidez, who's kind of a star in his own right now. Let's talk about this Mandalay media event that didn't happen, guys. As a local, 2 years now in Las Vegas, just celebrated my second year living here. Have been going to all these open workouts, whether they be at Mandalay Bay or at MGM Grand. They've been declining big time in numbers, guys. Some of you guys, if you've been so kind to watch me at these media day workouts, I keep telling people, I'm like, damn, I pan around. I try to make it look good, but to be honest, there's less and less people attending these Wednesday open media workouts to the general public. Less and less. The last one I just recently went to, I looked at my wife and said, damn, this is like the smallest of, over the 2-year period, if this is evidence of what's going on with U.S. boxing, the interest in boxing as a sport in the U.S., we really are a dying, sinking ship, which is why I believe PBC said, fuck, we're putting on a fight. It's not pay-per-view. These media day workouts require us to rent a ring, have a production company come and set up a ring. They probably have to pay a fee to the casino to have part of the casino cleared so the general public can't use that space. It's probably a lot of money in actually hosting those media day workouts inside the casino. And I think they just said, fuck, man, we really don't have the money for this. I'm just speculating, but it is expensive. It's got to be expensive. And due to the lack of interest, I think they just figured have this at a private gym strictly for only, a handful of reporters. And it's sad. It's sad. As from what I'm hearing, I've got a good friend who's going to be going on Saturday. I myself am going to stay home and watch all the boxing I can this weekend from the comfort of my own home, watching it on my 85-inch TV on Amazon Prime. Ticket sale, unless PBC calls me and gives me 2 tickets free, guys. Date night to any casino for a fight night, and Fonzie can attest to this. It ain't cheap, man. Even the fights that aren't so popular, like a fight like this one this weekend, you're still going to be paying north of $100 plus fees for tickets. You're looking at $250. And I'll tell you one thing that pisses me off about MGM and Mandalay Bay is recently, as a local, I'm like, well, I'm not going to pay the Uber. I can be at the Mandalay Bay in less than 15 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm going to park there. And as a local, you get 3 hours of free parking. That's all you get, 3 hours of free parking. Well, I roll up to the Mandalay Bay the last time they had a fight, and hardly anybody went to this fight. And wouldn't you know it, you get to the garage, and they say, oh, it's no locals free. It's $30 for everybody. You pay right now. $30 flat fee, special event parking pricing. $30 fucking dollars on top of the $250. I'm telling you, that's like the cheapest tickets you're going to get is $100, $125 plus fees. You're out $250. Now I'm out $280, but I don't mean to bitch like I don't have the funds or I don't have the money, but $280, even as a local, just to watch a fight, take your wife out, and you still haven't even taken into account cocktails, beer, maybe a restaurant. Wow. I mean, you're talking about $400, easily a $400 date night. And I just can't do that. I can't do that every month. Even though I live here, I can't responsibly spend $400 once a month going to every single fight. And they try to have these fights as off. Look, we got Top Rank April 5th at the Palms. I love the Palms. We've got this weekend. You've got Mega Fight in May. You've got Inoue coming May 4th to the T-Mobile. That starts at $260, or I think $265 for nosebleeds. You're looking at $550, $600 face value with fees to go to the T-Mobile to see that fight. It's outrageous. We're heading into a recession. I don't even know how fans of the Golden Knights do it, man. I really don't know how the fights of the Golden. I mean, just single tickets to a Golden Knights game will set you back. I mean, as much as what I'm bitching about. And there are people in Las Vegas that attend multiple games, if not they're season ticket holders. I don't know how they do it. It's crazy. And I'm sure boxing promoters are like, well, listen, this is on par with any other sporting event across the U.S. You know what I mean? You want to come see a sporting event, it's at least for decency, it's going to be $150. People pay that all day for the Golden Knights, and the Golden Knights have how many home games here at T-Mobile? It's wild. It's wild. Let's get to this story, guys. I appreciate everybody that's still here rocking with me. Let's talk about Tank Davis's 260,000 pay-per-view numbers. That's it. Is that a lot? Reported to Dan Raphael, his sources reported yesterday that 260,000 people bought the Tank Davis versus Lamont Roach pay-per-view. 250,000 American domestic pay-per-view sales. I don't know. It's got to be. Is that the new 500,000 in today's? Is that the equivalent of 500,000? Now, Tank's biggest pay-per-view ever was against, Ryan Garcia. Over 1 million people bought that. That was a good sell. People were interested in that. They thought, oh my God, boxing's turning its page again. No, we're starting to get million plus pay-per-views. Now, Lamont Roach is a great fighter, and Lamont Roach deserved that victory. As you can see, he was falling there, collapsing there to take a knee. They're most likely going to have a rematch. In fact, Las Vegas is rumored to be one of the locations, June 6th. But 262,000 pay-per-views, it's absolute proof. Absolute proof that Americans are sick and tired of paying $80 to watch boxing cards that sometimes don't fulfill. Sometimes they aren't fulfilling. And the UFC is having the same problem. So you got to wonder what Dana White right here, if he gets to hold the reins between Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford, what is he going to do that's different? I hope for boxing fans, it's just going to be free on Netflix. Because again, I said, from what I'm reading, Netflix does not have any interest in charging and doing a pay-per-view model on their platform. Netflix believes that if the event is done right, that they could be extremely profitable just on the merit of the fighters, which we saw the star appeal between Jake Paul and Mike Tyson did incredible numbers, and everybody was paid successfully. Speaking of Jake Paul, really quickly, guys, for those that follow women's boxing and appreciate it, my co-host at one point, I'm pretty sure he had a crush on Alicia. He won't be ashamed of it. But Alicia Baumgartner, who was suspended because of PEDs. In fact, she was busted for some serious PEDs, guys. She was straight up on some testosterones, anabolic steroids. She had denied it. She went to court. She did the whole Ryan Garcia, I don't know how the fuck this got in me. She said she's always had guns like that. I've always been this buff. Look at my little pictures when I was a kid. I always been yoked. Her suspension is long gone. This is something Amanda Serrano, which is, obviously the biggest star, female boxing star, one of them in the world, who is Jake Paul's number one female boxer. Alicia Baumgartner joins the group. She says MVP has proven they're leaders in women's boxing, creating the biggest opportunities for fighters like me to shine. The undisputed, somehow she kept all her titles despite having, this suspension for PEDs. She kept all her titles. She's undisputed, 130-pound women's champion, signs with Jake Paul. Jake Paul just did a podcast, guys, and he rips Turki Al-Sheikh. I have not seen the entire thing. Fonzie says, Richard Torres, Inoue, Zurdo Ramirez. That one I don't even know about, Fonzie. I didn't even know about that one. He says, I'll be there for all three matches, man. Right on, man. Right on. I know it's expensive to be a boxing fan. The price of entry to be a boxing fan has never been that expensive. Shout out to that SS Spider, man. I appreciate you. Let me make sure. Are you a mod, bro? Let me make sure. Tony's still here. I'm going to put you as a moderator as well. Man, I appreciate that. That SS Spider is going to get added here as a moderator. Everybody gets a wrench. I had this approach where I didn't really care about wrenches. I didn't even go into the studio portion of YouTube to make people regular moderators. But at this point, everybody deserves it that's here. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you. That SS Spider $1.99 sticker. So Baumgartner signs with MVP, guys. Speaking of Amanda Serrano, it's rumored that she signed with one of the most best talent agencies in Los Angeles. It's got A-list celebrities galore, and it looks like Amanda Serrano's not only going to benefit from the amazing amount of money that she's made with MVP, but apparently she might be somebody that they're looking into for movie and acting roles. So shout out to her for that. Wildest rumor ever this week, I heard. I can't believe this shit. Speaking of Jake and Tank Davis, this rumor is circulating that Tank versus Jake likely would have happened next if Davis had won. If Davis won his last fight, he didn't. It was a draw. Okay. Still, I don't know the source of this rumor. This shit is wild. Shout out Sin City Syndicate. He says the Kentucky Derby and boxing is back Cinco de Mayo weekend. Are you here for, you coming this weekend for March Madness? They got some great stuff going on at South Point Casino. I'm going to go check that out really quickly. One last thing. I talked about this on Monday here, guys. Gennady Golovkin, it is official for the Olympics. It's not horse racing, but for the Olympics 2028, it's official. It's now been made official. Gennady Golovkin will be in charge of Olympic boxing. He'll be at the head. He'll be the CEO of this. So Gennady Golovkin enjoying his new role as head of the Olympic Boxing Committee that I don't even know the name of it. It's changed now. They're not going to be working with the people who allowed the intersex female athlete to compete against real women in the last Olympics. They're done with that. They're done with those people. So Gennady Golovkin will be at the top of that. That's really cool. All right, there are 3 fights this weekend. It's March Madness. It's awesome, guys. March Madness is fucking cool. I'm going to go check that out tomorrow at South Point. Maybe I'll go live, but for sure I'm going to post a content, maybe a short video or shorts of what it's like. Like I said, Gabe Lopez of The Dirty at 12:30 is hosting it. It's an all-day party tomorrow and Saturday. If you're here, go to the South Point for a great, I think, $20 buckets of beer. I mean, you're not, see what I'm saying? You go on the strip and you spend $25 for one cocktail, but South Point, the local casino, is offering a bucket of beers for $20. They want you to stay and gamble. That's how you do it. That's how you do it, guys. These people, these casinos on the strip need to look out for these smaller casinos, man, on how they run shit. And that's why South Point is always cracking. It's always popping. So we'll go check that out tomorrow. I made a lot of mistakes about this one. This is tomorrow, guys. The weigh-in was today. Caught a little bit of it. I'm blocking my face, but let's see. Nicholson, I made a mistake. I completely forgot that she was a world title holder, fighting Brown. Sugar Johnson is fighting Hughes too. These two girls, she's the champion at 118, and this is a rematch. And the first one was a very good fight. Kambosos Jr. now at 140 pounds, fighting a last-minute replacement named Wiley. We got Wiley Coyote in here. Is it Willie or Wiley? I'm not sure, but it's a last-minute replacement. And it said that sales for this are very good, even in Australia. Something about they was clowning on good old Kambosos that he was only able to sell about 4,000 seats. And you would think women's boxing being very popular in Australia, so many female stars coming out of Australia, you would think that they did a lot better than 4,000 seats sold. So I have no idea. Now, this is reportedly on the West Coast tomorrow at midnight because of the time difference. This fight will be airing on DAZN. If you're on the Pacific, I think PT will be at midnight tomorrow. That's what I just saw. So this is tomorrow. We got Friday boxing. Then, of course, let's look at some boxing odds real quick, guys. Let's look at some boxing odds for this Saturday. Again, I was watching the. Let's see here. Sin City says it's dead in the casinos other than Circa. The strip was not what it was past years. Yeah. And by the way, look at, I don't have a co-host today, but I just make this shit huge. Look at this. That's the co-host right there. Sin City Syndicate is the co-host. That's sad, man. I really hope that the turnout this weekend is, we had St. Patrick's Day last weekend. Typically, these 2 weekends in March are really busy. Saturday, I'm not hearing anything positive. Again, they did not hold an open media workout open to the public at Mandalay Bay. To me, that's not a sign of good things. Mandalay Bay holds about 11,000 people. I'm just speculating that they're going to close off entire sections of the upper rafters. And if you bought one of those seats, those nosebleeds at Mandalay Bay, I will not be surprised if you get upgraded nicely. That often happens in fights that don't sell very well. I'm going to project that Fundora versus Booker is probably going to sell somewhere in the vicinity of 5,000 to 7,000 seats this weekend. 5,000 to 7,000 seats. They're going to be forced to close the upper sections just to give the perception that people are here, that people are there. 5,000 to 7,000 seats. If you predicted accurately that you were probably going to sell that many, you would have been better off hosting the fight at the Palms or at the Cosmopolitan. And Fonzie knows that very well, man. It's awesome when you go out there to the Palms and you see 4,000 people, and there's not a single empty seat, or you don't see a single empty seat at the Virgin Casino. That also holds about 4,000 to 5,000 max. And it's awesome seeing a fight with that many people. But when you go to Mandalay Bay or MGM Grand and you're like, wow, this shit is half empty, it kind of fucks with you as a boxing spectator. You're like, why did I pay to come see this, man? I should have just stayed at home and watched it on TV. I'm not hearing very good things about it. I hope the event does well. There's some great kids on the fight. Let's talk about this fight card really quickly and look at some of the odds for Saturday. Fundora versus Booker. I said Booker's he's someone that joined the sport of boxing at 18 years old. And even then, with a late start, he made it to pretty far in the amateurs, being a Golden Glove winner, I think, nationally, and making Olympic trials, eventually losing to Charles Conwell, who's one of the baddest 154-pound fighters there is right now. He's much, much shorter, as you guys see the thumbnail, and he's in his early 30s, but he's looking for an upset. If you're interested, let's go to the odds here. I'm on DraftKings.com. You can follow along. In the main event, co-main, let's start with Elijah Garcia. Elijah Garcia, 160 pounds versus Geisha. Geisha is a guy who knocked down Tim Tszyu once upon a time. He's also a former Olympian. Terrell Geisha is a plus 450 underdog, guys. And Elijah Garcia, middleweight, he's been at this weight class for a long time. He did have a disappointing loss. I think Elijah Garcia is in for a very tough fight, guys, especially Terrell Geisha, who's very seasoned, a decorated amateur. This one, I don't think the odds are anywhere. They're way too far apart. Negative 650. By the way, I met Elijah Garcia's family, man. They're a great group. They're just I met his grandpa at the MGM. He's a wonderful kid. They've very strong Christian background. Arizona family. I don't agree with this one at all. In fact, I could say that if things don't go well for Elijah and he doesn't get his timing right, I think Terrell Geisha is ripe for an upset. And Terrell Geisha is moving up in weight to 160. That's the one thing I hold against him, but this is a very difficult fight for Elijah Garcia. He did have a full camp. He said his camp was great. If there's an upset, it's going to be this one. What's good, Warlock Boxing? Appreciate you, man. Good to see you in the chat. Fonzie says, if Fundora ever fights Virgil Ortiz, I'll be there. Other than that, I'm not going to see that princess unless his sister's there. She'll be there this Saturday for sure, man. She will be there. We'll get to that because, man, Virgil Ortiz, the idea of Virgil Ortiz getting a title opportunity is ripe for discussion, and it's proper right now. We got to see him fight Bohacek live. That was one of my incredible fight. In fact, I have the clip. I'll probably play that in just a second. But Fundora is going to have to recognize, his promoter Samson's going to have to recognize that Virgil Ortiz is probably is one of the biggest draws at 154. We saw it. They did fairly well, right? Where did we see that fight? Was that MGM Grand? That shit sold well. Sold pretty damn well. In fact, I would dare say that you could probably come close to 10,000 seats, maybe even coming close to selling out Mandalay Bay if you had a fight with Virgil Ortiz, and he rightfully deserves that. Coming up after that, guys, we have Jesus Ramos Jr. I saw the press conference. Jesus is coming. He's coming off of like a 6-week turnaround. He just fought at the very beginning of February, which is something I think his dad, his team, his uncle's also part of his team. I think they made the right move here. Now, this is not his original scheduled opponent. This is Argentinian fighter Skram, who was featured on Pro Box. He's lost. Skram got knocked out by a Stockton fighter that Jesus Ramos beat easily. Sometimes these fights where last minute replacement guys like Scrum is pretty wiry, and Ramos Jr. I believe he prepares for everything, and now he's been seasoned. He's fought a lot. He just recently beat former world champion the Banana Rosario. I think he's prepared for any styles that come to him at this point in his career, right? Ramos Jr. has just that one loss where it was questionable against Erickson Lubin. I think he's going to stop Scrum. Let's look at these odds really quickly, and these should be much more accurate. Jesus Ramos is a negative 2,500 favorite. You're going to have to bet $2,500 to win a $100 fucking bill. Damn. That's a massive favorite. This is boxing. Anything can happen, guys. Scrum can crack. Anything can happen. But this is likely pretty accurate. 2,500 favorite, negative 2,500 favorite. Let's talk about the main event. Fonzie says those Michelob Arena. Let's check that out really quickly, man. A little bit of the 12th round. Let's see if it plays. Oh, it don't play. I must have got the video off. All right. Well, I thought I had it here, guys. It was at the Michelob. Yeah, man, that was fucking great. I had the 12th round right here. I'm like ready to play all the time. But I guess I did something with that. In the main event, Sebastian Fundora versus Cordell Booker. Cordell Booker hoping to make the biggest upset of 2025. It would have been Lamont Roach had Lamont Roach rightfully gotten, his flowers. He didn't get the call. Cordell Booker would be a unified champion. The odds for this one are more favorable. Sebastian Fundora, a negative 1,400 favorite. All of these fights will begin at 5 p.m. Pacific on Amazon Prime. And again, if you have Amazon Prime, it's going to be free. You're going to be able to watch it. I actually think Amazon Prime does a very good job. They don't stutter. It hasn't been any streaming issues. I think they do fairly well, man. So this is going to be available at 5 o'clock. Now, on YouTube to get your party going on Saturday for fights, we got a banger of a fight. This is going to be a very important fight for people who follow the super middleweight division, because both of these guys, in my opinion, have the potential to be top 5 contenders in the super middleweight division. We've got a mixture of young guys. We've got a mixture of guys like Edgar Berlanga, Caleb Plant, who's now kind of aging and has already been a former champion. We have Jaime Munguia, who we really don't know. Jaime Munguia is going to be on the May undercard for Canelo Alvarez. He's got to beat the guy who knocked him out. There's a lot of questions in that division. Of course, we have Christian and Billy. We also have that other tall Mexican kid from LA who's, members of his staff beat up a reporter, Diego Pacheco. But these two guys, man, on Pro Box this Saturday, go over there and watch it. The fight starts at 3 o'clock. It's in San Bernardino. Shout out to all my Dino people. Where's my? Used to have one guy used to watch me from San Bernardino. Man, what happened to you, homie? What happened to you? You're not here no more. Shit. Pro Box in San Bernardino this Saturday. Main event features Joshawn James of Sacramento, who was a very interesting looking middleweight. He's so tall. We got Joshawn James out of Sacramento versus Lester Martinez, who is he's a Guatemalan fighter. It's not that to my memory has ever been a Guatemalan champion. Lester Martinez can do it all, man. This guy could box. He could slug. This is going to be a very, very interesting fight. Speaking of fighters, Vladimir Hernandez returns to the card. I didn't see him. Stockton, California's Vladimir Hernandez. Now, Vladimir Hernandez, I believe he was stopped by Jesus Ramos Jr. Vladimir Hernandez is a road dog, your old school throwback fucking journeyman who can crack, he can fight, he's got one hell of a chin. He's had one of the most impressive knockouts on Pro Box, kind of finding his home here at Pro Box. He can give anybody a rough time. He can give a fucking top 3 contender in the 154-pound division work. So this fight is going to be great. Make sure you stick around for that. Jasmine Artiga versus Regina Chavez, women's boxing. But the co-main on this, Vladimir Hernandez versus Isaiah Lucero, that should be some fireworks. Any fight with Vladimir Hernandez, expect fireworks, man. The guy is a throwback fighter. You know what I mean? Throwback journeyman. He can make it rough. He can fight against world-class opposition and make you look bad. Vladimir Hernandez knocked out Scrum, which is the guy that Ramos Jr. is going to be fighting at the last minute. A lot of guys from Pro Box end up on the big fight cards. A lot of guys from Pro Box have become literally Lamont Roach, world champion. You know, Angelo Leo out of Las Vegas, dropped by PBC, now a world champion, now on his way to Japan to defend his featherweight title against Kamita next month. Lester Martinez versus Joshawn James. Do not miss this fight. This fight starts at 3 o'clock on YouTube. Shout out to SB. Appreciate you. Inland Empire says 951. Hey. Shout out to San Bernardino, everybody in the 951 area. Pro Box at 3 p.m. on YouTube. Hopefully that main event is going to get started. I find it hard to believe that they're going to have two fights on the West Coast back to back like that. It may be difficult to watch both of them. They might overlap, but the great thing about Pro Box and YouTube is that, man, you guys know, but just rewind it. If you don't catch the main event, because you go over to the Amazon Prime to watch the Mandalay Bay fight, then you can always rewind one or the others. It's been a fun time, guys. 1 hour trying to find my inner voice to be able to be capable of doing an hour-long show on my own sometimes, because today Drew let me know that he was busy doing overtime and he couldn't make the show. And oftentimes, guys, it hasn't helped my channel to just be coming on here one day a week. It is the reason why my channel's been hampered. There's guys that talk about boxing 5 days a week. You know, Boxing Voice, Showbiz the Adult. The list goes on and on of the top boxing channels on YouTube. They don't do a show once a week, and it definitely wasn't helping me. So I'm just trying to find my way. Let me know in the comments section if you enjoyed my show tonight, just me alone, how I can make it better. I'm always open to constructive criticism if it's constructive. Fonzie says, I really hope Berlanga versus Plant happens. A lot of people do. A lot of people feel that, speaking of the super middleweight division, that's the fucking fight to make. I'm glad you brought that up, because a good friend of mine who I haven't talked to, unfortunately, he was a good friend of the show, Francisco Esparza, who went by the name of Alacran, is Trevor McCumbie's assist man. It's not the cut man, but in boxing you get to have your trainer, your cut man, and your assist man. Well, my friend Francisco, Las Vegas guy, Las Vegas former fighter, he's the assist man for Trevor McCumbie, and it looks like Trevor McCumbie is in talks of getting another big fight after fighting Caleb Plant and giving Caleb Plant some good work. Do not be surprised. Do not be surprised if Trevor McCumbie finds himself in a big fight against somebody like Berlanga. I'm just saying, man, since the rumors are out there, but Trevor McCumbie, that would be great to have Trevor McCumbie come on the show, guys. Like I said, my boy is his assist man, and maybe they can invite us into the gym. But Trevor McCumbie, another player at 168, and who knows what'll happen. So again, guys, I appreciate everybody that joined me for this full hour of boxing talk on Thursday night, Shoeshine Boxing. We will return to the air on Monday night. Drew should be back on as my co-host. And I wish everybody a fantastic fucking weekend. If whatever you're doing, March Madness, you're watching college basketball, wagering some money. Keep your eye on my channel, because I'm going to try to put together some short form content. Check it out, the March Madness activities tomorrow at some of the local casinos, and see what's going on in Vegas. Is Vegas on a lifeline? 2025. Are we on the verge of a recession? How is Las Vegas going to deal with that? Appreciate everybody. Warlock Boxing, everybody asked me that was up in here. I'll be back Monday at 7:45. Until then, peace out.